Christmas is loud now, music everywhere, endless images, expectations stacked on expectations. But the first Christmas wasn't loud at all. It arrived quietly, almost unnoticed. And that raises an uncomfortable question. What if we've been listening for God in all the wrong places? The original Christmas didn't interrupt history with noise. It slipped into it gently. Life kept moving. People kept working. Most never realized anything extraordinary had happened. No pause, no announcement, no collective awareness that something eternal had entered the ordinary. That alone tells us something important about how God moves. We tend to associate meaning with volume. If something matters, we expect it to announce itself. We expect clarity, certainty, and unmistakable signs. We expect life to slow down so we can recognize what's important. Instead, everything speeds up. The calendar fills, the pace accelerates. There are lists to finish, places to be, gifts to buy, expectations to meet. Even rest becomes scheduled. Even joy feels rushed. Over time, Christmas became louder because we became busier. The focus slowly shifted. Meaning was replaced with motion. Presence was replaced with preparation. And without realizing it, Christmas became something we perform rather than something we receive. Presents pile up, schedules tighten, and somewhere along the way, the quiet center of the season gets buried under urgency. Not because people don't care, but because they're exhausted. Because slowing down feels irresponsible. Because stillness feels like falling behind. But Christmas didn't come with clarity. It came with vulnerability, with uncertainty, with people who were already tired, already waiting, already unsure of what the future held. Mary was waiting without full understanding. Joseph was waiting without control. A nation was waiting without answers. None of them had the full picture. None of them were prepared in the way we usually define preparedness. And God didn't arrive to remove the waiting. He entered it. That's the quiet meaning Christmas reveals. The story doesn't show God standing at a distance, waiting for conditions to improve. It shows him stepping into discomfort, into interruption, into lives that were unfinished and unresolved. Christmas wasn't God's solution to waiting. It was his presence within it. And that matters because many people struggle with faith precisely during seasons that feel incomplete. When answers are delayed, when direction feels unclear, when life doesn't look the way it was supposed to by now. We assume faith should feel strongest when things are settled. But Christmas suggests the opposite, that faith often takes root when things are still uncertain. Christmas quietly challenges the idea that meaning comes after resolution. Instead, it suggests that meaning often arrives before things make sense. Presence comes before explanation. Purpose appears before clarity. That can feel unsettling because we like explanations. We like timelines. We like knowing what comes next. Waiting forces us to sit with unanswered questions longer than we want to. It exposes our need for control. It reveals how uncomfortable we are with not knowing. But it can also be deeply comforting because it means God doesn't wait for your life to be organized before he moves. He doesn't wait for calm. He doesn't wait for certainty. He moves when life is fragile, when people are weary, when hope has grown quiet but hasn't disappeared. The waiting before Christmas was long, generations long. Silence stretched on until hope became something people whispered instead of declared. Promises were remembered, then doubted, then quietly held onto by a few who refused to let go completely. And yet, when God moved, he didn't move loudly. He moved deliberately, not rushed, not delayed, but intentional. That kind of timing is difficult for us. We measure progress by speed. We associate growth with momentum. We expect faith to feel like forward motion. But Christmas suggests something deeper. that God often works beneath the surface first, shaping hearts before changing circumstances. The miracle wasn't only the arrival, it was the patience that came before it. Waiting has always been part of the story, not as punishment, but as preparation, not as neglect, but as formation. Long before anything changed outwardly, something was being shaped inwardly. Trust, endurance, humility, and a dependence that couldn't be rushed. That's why Christmas still speaks so clearly to people who are waiting now, waiting for direction, waiting for relief, waiting for something to finally shift. The story doesn't promise instant change. It promises presence. And over time, presence changes how waiting feels. Christmas doesn't erase uncertainty. It reframes it. It tells us that silence isn't abandonment, and waiting isn't neglect. Sometimes, waiting is where God chooses to draw closest. Not to rush the outcome, but to steady the person who's waiting. That's a quieter meaning than most expect, but it's also a deeper one. So if this Christmas season feels calm on the surface but unsettled underneath, if joy feels muted, if you're still carrying something unresolved, have patience. Christmas doesn't disqualify you from hope. It was written for people exactly where you are, not at the end of the waiting, but in the middle of it. This channel is for moments like this. If that speaks to you, feel free to subscribe.